All right, so now that that crashed all nicely and stuff, this is the next video. Okay, so I think I was working on. Oh, I was using the other options here. Come on, turn on. There we go. So just so you can see, if I clicked on the ambient occlusion. Now, if I just control click, let's see, there we go, control click. I don't know if you're going to be able to. It doesn't look like it actually worked. It's kind of hard to tell. Oh no, it did. Okay. So I'm gonna take my occlusion intensity and I'm gonna bump that up to 10 just to make it a little bit stronger. I'll click the mask ambient occlusion again, and this will take a little bit of time. But this time I'm just gonna let us watch it because I don't want to have it crash. So basically, what it's gonna do is it's gonna look for any areas that are crevices, and areas that would be in shadow will be sort of masked out. So like obviously this arm would create a sort of shadow, right? Now I'm saying like a direct sunlight shadow where it's literally going to be the shape of it, but it's going to create a sort of foggy, a fogginess around areas that are close to each other. Oh, I shouldn't have pushed down apparently. So like it'll happen here, there'll be a little bit of a shadow behind the pit of the knee here, in between the fingers, you know, kind of around where the eyeball is here. It'll create sort of a darker area in there. It's not the same thing as cavity, because cavity will look for like very specific, it'll find little fine details. This is sort of similar, but it's more vague and it's larger shapes. Okay, it's one of the. We'll just wait for it to respond. It did actually respond eventually. Oh god. Okay, we get it, buddy. All right. It's all part of the love of the program. We'll still wait. So it'll be a little bit more vague, and it's actually one of those, if you've done any of the other 3D classes, you know that it's one of those things where it you can actually have a render pass of it, and it adds just a little more oomph to it overall. Okay, so we're going to do that, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to invert the mask so it doesn't mask that area. It's going to mask everything but those areas. And I'm just going to generally lay a darkness in there, okay? And the whole idea is that it's sort of a pre-shading. Then I'm going to go through and I'm going to go with the cavity mask, and I'm going to get more to the finer details with the cavity mask and sort of apply shading to that as well, okay? So we're going to use the masks, which use basically the actual geometry itself, what we sculpt, the fine details, and various other things. It's going to let the surface sort of act as the mask so that we can more enhance it using the texturing, okay? And I'm going to try and do that, and then I'll do the opposite where I'll try to make some areas lighter, okay? And then I'll go through and I might like paint specific details and things. Okay, so it may not be as obvious. So what I'm going to do is, oh, you can actually kind of see it in the eye here. It picked up a little bit there. It actually picked up a little bit there too. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually hold control and I'm going to tap. And what that's going to do is it's actually going to invert the mask. And you can kind of see how it's lighter here, lighter there. Inside the fingers, it's a little bit lighter. Okay. And, oops, that's not what I wanted to do. Let's see, can I undo that? Oops, no, this one. Give it back. Okay, good. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to paint inside there. Now, I'm just going to show you a cheap way of doing it. You really should do this by hand, but I'm just going to do it the cheap way because I'm a cheap kind of guy. I'm going to choose a color that I think would make sense to go inside to be in the darker area. So I'm going to do kind of a darkish, reddish kind of. Never go just black or just white. Always try to give a little color to something because it adds quite a bit to it. So I'm going to add kind of this like gritty, brownish, reddish color. And what I'm going to do is kind of like what we did before. I'm only on RGB this time, but I'm going to go to color. And actually, I'm going to take my intensity down too. Let me see where I'm at as far as, oh, it's at 0. So that'll do nothing. We'll go like 10, we'll try. And I'm actually going to go to color, and I'm going to go fill object. And maybe I should go a little higher. Oh, whoops. That was the intensity, RGB intensity. Okay. Let's try that again. Color, and we'll do fill object. And it should theoretically, and didn't really do much. Okay. Let me see. I was on that. I was on my guy. All right. Let's do this instead. Okay, I'm gonna back that up until I get my mask back. Okay. Oh, wrong button. Here we go. Maybe I'll just do it by hand. The fill color should work, but I don't know if maybe because I have it on this. We'll do freehand. It's better to do this way anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to paint in these areas to sort of add, especially right in there, to sort of add that color to those areas that should have it. Okay, so you can see like wherever there's those little crevices and stuff, it's going to kind of add that in there. Make this a little bit bigger, kind of add some in there. I'm sure inside of here, I mean, we can see like in the hands, obviously it's adding a little bit there. Probably should be some in here. You're really gonna see it start to really pop in certain areas. Okay, all right, right in here for sure it's going to be having a ton of shading options. You can kind of see how it's really filling in there. Okay, and we'll kind of put it in the feet here. Okay, and probably in the back a little bit. Oops, thought I didn't. Okay, and we'll kind of paint in here. All right. Okay, and then I'll kind of back this up, and now when I clear this mask out, you'll see that it added just a general darkness, like a kind of pre-shading to it. You can kind of see right here in particular, it's like really maybe a little too strong, but it added that like little bit of a sort of patina that you would see like on old pots and toys and things. You can see like it caught some of those details, and it really makes them much more enhanced, right? So now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use the cavity one, which is actually considerably stronger. So I'm going to be masked by cavity, and you can see it does that. So I have it on a pretty strong note here. There's a lot of texture and stuff that's picking up. I'm going to try and take my blur up a little bit to like 24, and I'll bring this down. Well, that went quite the... Let's try masking again, see what I get this time. Alright, let's do a little bit more. Let's try that, 75-ish. Okay, so it gives me a little bit more. And again, I'm going to invert it, so I'm just going to hold Control and tap, and it will do the opposite. But you can see how this is picking up much more micro details. And for this one, I'm going to go ahead and go a little more cool on this one. More like, okay, like that, we'll say. All right, and I'm going to take my intensity down a whole ton because I felt like it was a little bit strong in the last one. And I'm just going to kind of paint this in there, okay? And this should hopefully, theoretically, pick up. Oh, keep hitting the space bar instead of my other thing. What did I change? Looks okay. Alright. Alright, so we're just going to kind of paint in. Keep hitting the wrong one. Paint in all these details here. Alright. Okay. Really try to utilize what we can. Alright. Wonder if I should have went a little bit darker. But the nice thing is, because I'm putting this on layers, if for some reason I'm like really hating on it, I can totally just delete this layer that I made and then just replace it with one that doesn't stink. But for the purposes of edumacation, I'm just gonna quickly do it. Okay, and then I'm just gonna Control, click, and drag to clear the mask. You can see it might have made some sense to blur because a little bit whatever there, but it did pick up some of the texture and stuff. I'm not actually very super happy with it, but it's fine for now. Do a better job on yours. I don't have a ton of time. All right, so you can see it's starting to kind of come together. There's a nice little variance to it. So I'd probably carry on and like maybe hand do some of it to make it look a little bit better. But in our case, I think what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and add another layer. Boom. And I'm going to name this one just pre-shade light. Okay. And basically, it's probably what you think it's going to be. I'm going to do kind of the same thing. I'm going to skip the ambient occlusion one. I would suggest doing that, but you can see it only worked in very particular areas. I'm going to keep using the cavity. I'm going to mask by cavity. And actually, for that matter, I'm going to make it full intensity. We'll blur it up a bit more. Mask by cavity. Let's see what we get. Did it do it? Oh. I don't know if I hit it. Let's try that again. Make sure it worked. Okay. And then I'm going to go ahead and I am going to blur the mask. You can see how it kind of blurs out some of the stuff. And I'm going to choose more of a warmish color. Okay. Kind of a warm color. A little more yellowish. Okay. And I'm going to brush on now this color. Okay. Let's go ahead and kind of paint on and here. Okay. Kind of put a little bit of that in there. All right. Okay. Make that a little bit bigger. Okay. All right. All right. Come on. Alright, so do a good job, don't do a bad job like me. Alright, and then I'm just going to clear this out, and you can see kind of what I have. It's just kind of add a little bit of lightness to it. But we're getting multiple layers, you know, of goodness that's sort of getting there. You can really start to see these like gritty wrinkles and stuff, and it's starting to look kind of cool. Now what I might do is actually make... so usually I do like a primary and secondary layer. So I'm just going to make another one, and I'm just going to call this one secondary coloring. So secondary. Alright, and I'm going to take this guy and let's see. Oops. Didn't want to do that. Hang on a second. Doing it the wrong way. Forget you can't just drag up like you do in other ones. I'm just going to put this one right at the very top so that it's underneath everything. Okay. And basically what I'm doing is I'm just going to kind of paint a little bit more. But you'll notice that, you know, depending on the anterior and the posterior, like if you look at a shark or a dolphin or even your own arm, you'll notice that one side's darker and the other side's lighter. So that's kind of what I'm going to do here. I'm going to try and just generically make the top side a little bit. Mesh has polypaint layers. Turn off MRG or activate layer recording mode. Oh, whoops. I didn't have it on. Okay. And just generically try to, you know, do a variance of color just in general, that, like, you know, there's a darker color on top kind of a thing and a lighter color. Should have done this first actually, so my bad. All right, kind of seems to be masking over a little bit the other ones. And then I'm gonna kind of do the opposite underneath. I'll do like kind of a more of a lightish greenish color for his belly and stuff. Yeah, you can see it's actually kind of painting over the other one, but that's okay. You get the idea. Particularly like this thing down here would be really white, right? Yeah, you always see that kind of. I think I want to add a little more green on this. Let's go a little. It's gonna go crazy. All right, a little darker maybe. Okay. I just kind of want to. Okay. Just add a little something, make them a little more snaky, I guess. All right, so. Okay. So imagine I did a good job. It's difficult to do, but you can figure it out. All right, I'm just gonna check real quick what my time is at here. Okay, so I'm gonna call that good as far as painting is concerned. You'd want to go through and like hand paint, so like I might go through and like really try to like paint, like, you know, if there's details and things, or he has like patterns on his skin. Actually, I'll just do it real quick. I'm just gonna add another layer. I'm not gonna bother naming it, but just to show you. So I could do something where I could take a texture here, let it take forever. Oh, come on. And we'll just do, give me something here. Okay, we'll say this one. It's kind of cool. Then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do drag rectangle, and I might kind of, let me see, that's not really working. Hang on a second. Might be the intensity. Let's take my intensity, oops, not this one up a bit. There we go. And it's just something where it's really subtle, but it'll add a little bit of variation. So you kind of click, I can kind of click and drag